We're here because our story is our legacy. Hearing the stories of Holocaust survivors is an honor and a responsibility. We know that there have been really dark days, but how we survive those dark days, how we hold our head up high and tell people, I'm still here, that's how we win against those who would do us harm. That's how we win against those who are evil. We survive and we thrive. And Tauba, it is indeed an honor. I want to welcome you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to my friends. I am honored to be here and to tell you the story of the Holocaust. Sometimes when I look back, I said to myself, I went through this. It's unbelievable what I did. My story is unique. I was not in camps. I was not in Auschwitz. I was on my own, taking me out. A righteous Gentile took me out of the Dubno ghetto.
So we will get to the story of Mr. Kuka Refuge, who is a key player. But before we do, let's go back to your childhood. You were the oldest of 6, and you were born.
You can say when
Can I say
born.
1918?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can say.
I don't want to get in
Doesn't
trouble
matter.
to start off here.
It's only a number.
In 1941, your family fled into Russia.
In 1939,
Yeah.
Hitler invaded Poland. We did hear about Hitler. We knew it's a bad war. We didn't have any radios. We didn't know what's going on in Germany. And we didn't know anything about Hitler. When the Polish army lost the war to Hitler, I had girlfriends, and they say they're going to run away. So I came home to my mother and said, Mother, I'm going with my girlfriend. I'm running. Then my brother said, I'm running. Then my sister. And so my mother said, well, children, let's all go. So we left our belongings. We went towards the Russian-occupied places. I went to Polish schools. The Polish boys loved the Jewish girls because they said that we are pretty girls. All the schools were integrated. And I've learned all the Christian religion because we were all together. We did not experience any anti-Semitism. We didn't know what anti-Semitism. We had neighbors that we lived together like neighbors in good terms. There was no anti-Semitism. At least we did not experience this.
I just want to make sure people heard that. Then
Yeah.
your family, they leave, but you don't end up going with them. Why?
My family and I, we left. We became refugees in a place that divided the Hitler-occupied zone with a river. There was a river book. After this, the Russian occupied. At this time, the Russians were very good to the Jewish people. And there was so many refugees there that Russia made an announcement and said, whoever it wants to come into the Soviet Union, we are opening the doors. We will furnish vehicles. Come in, come in, come in. And then in 1941, Hitler invaded that part of the Ukrainian, and I was detained by Hitler's occupation.
So at this point, your family's in Russia. Have you talked to them, communicated in any way with them?
You cannot do this.
No.
My mother came back one time with my sister. While she still was there in Dubno, we heard noises like, and there were bombs falling, and we didn't know. My mother went home, and I was staying. And then the next day, there was an invasion on the Ukrainian, and Hitler invaded that part of the country.
By the way,
So-
where did you live when your family left? Who would you live with?
I lived with the family, like in a furnished room, you know.
No, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you these questions.
Yeah.
So you stayed with a family, they took you in.
Yes.
There's a family you knew well.
I didn't know anybody well because I was not from Dubno, but I worked in a restaurant, and as soon as Hitler occupied, they formed the ghetto, they formed the Jewish police. I speak a very well German, and I found a German company that I was washing clothes. So we opened a laundromat outside of the ghetto. So every day I went to work. I scrubbed linen in a barrel, in a round barrel with a board. And today in the United States, they use it for an instrument. And I scrubbed it. And I was decorated. A yellow star here, a yellow star here, and then Star of David. One day I went to work. My boss's name, my manager's name was Mr. Kukarevich. Anybody say Kukarevich?
Kukarevich?
Nobody can say Kukarevich. Kukarevich. When I marched into work and he walked by, and I went over to him, and he didn't run away, and he said to me, "What can I do for you?" I said, "Mr. Kukarevich, please take me out of the ghetto." He said, "Okay." Did I know if he said okay, if it's true, or did I know that I put my life in his hands and he's going to point me out to the Gestapo? I didn't know, but I had to do it. Sure enough, next day he came and took me out of the ghetto. He took me to his house, and I was in the basement. And in Dubno, they were killing Jews. 3 days went by. They brought me food, and I said, "Mr. Kukarevich, I cannot be here with you. If they will find out, they will destroy your family. Please take me away from here." I must say for sure that I was young, I was not smart, I didn't know anything about anything. I figured that God is with me. God is leading my way the right way. That's what I believed all my surviving time.
And growing up and to this point, did you consider yourself religious?
Everybody was Orthodox in Eastern Europe. There were no Reform, no Conservative, no the Reform, nothing. Everybody was frum. You didn't have to be a chassid to be frum. A Jewish person wore an undergarment, you call it tzitzis. He covered his head. He showed the devotion to the Almighty.
So what happened next?
So I told Mr. Kukarevich that I must leave here, that if they will find out that he's hiding me, then his family will be destroyed. And so next day he hired a horse and wagon, and he came with a man and they dressed me up in a Polish costume, and I wore a babushka. His wife gave me his birth certificate, and she was at this time maybe 40 years of age, and I was maybe 22. So I sat down in the wagon, and he said to me, "If someone stops us, you are my wife." Good. So we were driving with the horse through little villages, through towns. Everything was boarded up with plywood. You couldn't see a dog outside. It was all Juden rein, all free of Jews. And we are traveling, and then we stopped, and he said to me, of course in Polish, "Here where I leave you off, God bless you." He took away his wife's birth certificate, and he left me with 2 suitcases, which I had religious articles in the suitcases. And he went. Here I'm standing between heaven and earth, and I had no idea where I am. So I look around, I open a door, there was a barn. I went in, I lay down there, and I figured whatever will be, will be.
Can I ask you a question? You said you had religious articles in your suitcase, but you knew that would be dangerous. Why did you take them?
Christian religious articles.
Oh, Christian religion.
I had Jesus Christ, I had Maria, I have rosaries, I have crosses, and I knew how to pray in Polish, because I did went to Polish schools, and our school was integrated, so you learn.
Okay, that's a detail. I'm glad I asked. So you slept in the barn? By the way, you said before you didn't think you were very smart, you didn't know nothing. But those of us sitting here are amazed at how smart you were.
And this was because of him. This is the only way I can say it, because I was not aware of all those things that happening to me. I did not expect this.
All right, so you were in the barn.
Okay. I'm in the barn. I got up in the morning. I look around. I don't know where I am. Then I saw a few soldiers, German soldiers. And I speak a well German. I write and read because I took it up in school. When I went to school, we had to take a foreign language, so I took German. I went over to them, and when you speak German to a German person, they will never, ever accuse you that you are a Jew. But a Polish or Ukrainian or a Latvian, if you speak German, they tell you that you are a Jew. So I went to these 2 soldiers, and I said, "Can you please tell me where I am? I'm from the Black." I have to tell them an alibi. I'm from the Black Forest. I cannot come home because the Russians are there. They're going to kill me. Where am I? So I was between 2 borders, 2 states, 2 borders. Geographically, I knew about them because I learned in school, but I've never been to this part of the country. And I asked him, can I cross the border? And they let me cross the border. After I crossed the border, I went in, I saw a big sign, German sign. I went in, I asked for a job, and he asked me if I can milk cows. And I said, sure. And they gave me a job, and I rented a furnished room. And after a week, I felt the detectives are following me. They're spying on me. And I had to make a quick move. I went into my employer, and I said, my aunt is sick. I have to leave here. Can you give me a recommendation paper that I worked for you? No problem. He gave me a paper, and I go on a train. I have no idea where I'm going.
Question I have for you before you go on. You said when they asked you, do you know how to milk cows, you said yes. Had you ever milked a cow before?
Never in my life. I wasn't even never near a cow.
Amazing.
I thought, no.
All right, so you were smart enough to get...
You had to say the right thing to get a job. So after I'm on the train, and I don't know where I'm going. Right in front of me stood up a Polish girl. She was so tall. And she said to me, where are you going? And I said to her, where are you going? And she told me the city. I said, what a coincidence. What a coincidence. I'm going there too. So I had a city to go to. But when I came to the station, I want you to know in front of the station were always collaborators. They were looking for Jews to point out to the Germans, to the Nazis. And then I saw a big sign in German. The engineer, those are private people that after the occupation, they came from different cities and they worked there. And they built bridges, infrastructure. I said, I'm looking for a job. I'm from the Black Forest, and I cannot come back because they're going to kill me if the Russians are occupying that place. So he said, can you cook? Oh, of course I can cook. I never boiled water in my life. He said, come back tomorrow and I will give you a job. I said, I have no place to go. So he stood up, took me to a hotel, told the clerk not to bother me, and in the morning he will pick me up. He came in the morning, he picked me up. The city's name was Khodorov. Right away, they built me a room. I had a bed with a closet. I was in business. And there was a little boy, he was maybe 15, and in the city they were killing Jews all the time. And that little boy, his name was Jacob Streichler, and he suspected something, but I could never tell him who I was.
This cook must have been a pretty kind person. They must have known you couldn't cook, and they helped teach you to cook?
Well, I didn't cook. The chef cooked. I peeled potatoes and carrots. I helped him to prepare. The reason that I'm here today is because I was not hungry during the war. Hunger is the worst thing in life. It's not that, oh, I didn't eat lunch, I'll eat lunch 2 hours later. This is hunger that you fast, you have nothing. So I was not hungry during the war, and I'm still here. So I worked in the kitchen, and I was even registered in the city hall as Maria Kucharevich.
So you kept her name even though you didn't have a birth certificate. Did you have any other papers with her name on it?
No papers. I had the Almighty.
Yeah, the Almighty.
The Almighty. I had nothing. I have nobody. I was on my own. Everything was very stable for a while. Meanwhile, my life wasn't so dull. I met a friend during all of this. His name was Mr. Fritz Quabus, and he saw me. I was young. I was pretty, I might say. And he said, "Where are you from? What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm from the Black Forest, and the Russians are occupying, and I cannot go back because they're going to kill me." He took an interest in me, not romantically, just he felt sorry for me. I was young and all alone and this and this. And he used to come every Sunday to visit. One day, the engineer that hired me said to me, "Maria, you work too hard. I'm going to give you help." He brings in a Ukrainian girl, and she takes one look at me. And she told me I'm a Jew. One look of me. Tell me, how does a Jew look? I met a Presbyterian minister that he really looked Jewish. He really, really looked Jewish. And I said, "Olga, I'm not Jewish." And at this point, I started to plan an escape. The detectives were following me. Then I said to Mr. Kvabus, "I have to leave here." So I packed my stuff. He took me to a shed that stood in the middle of a village. That Mr. Kvabus told me, "You stay here. I'll take your suitcases to Stri," that's another city, "and I'll wait for you when you come." I came to the station, I went to the train, and he was there, met me there. And he locked me up in a welding shop for the night when the workers are not there. In the morning, he came before the workers came to the shop, and he said, "Maria, tell me if this is true what Olga is said." He said, "I don't care who you are, but I want to teach Olga a lesson." And I said, 9, no. Because if I say yes, you couldn't trust anybody with your life. Once I say yes, who knows? So we went for coffee, and then we went to a main street, a highway, where the trucks with one soldier stood in front with a rifle. And in the truck, there were hundreds of prisoners, Jewish. They took him, and I saw a young man laying on the floor, on the ground, on the sidewalk. Every truck that went through, he jumped from a truck, and every truck that went through with that soldier, they shot at him, and he couldn't die. When I saw this, I said, I want to go. So I went away, and that picture I'll remember until the end of my life. I always leaned towards the Germans because they never ever accuse you of being Jewish because you are speaking German. So I went to Stri. There was a German hospital on wheels. You see, what happened was the Germans were running from the Russians not to be captured, imprisoned for them. So they were running, and they left a couple of soldiers behind in case the fronts are getting better so they can come back. But it never happened. I applied to a German hospital on wheels. You call it Lazarette. I had a job at the laboratory. I befriended a girl, Jane, and she said, Maria, you want to go and visit my grandmother to the city? And I said, okay. So we went on the train, and I was jolly, and we're sitting down, and I started to sing a German song, and up stood a Ukrainian. They had such a big guys. And took me and said, you there, and took me off the train, took me into the train station, and I was dressed up. I was slim, I had a nice dress on with brown shoes, a brown clutch purse, and I did not look like a runaway. So I came into the train station. There were 10 Gestapos, 10 assessments, Ukrainians, Poles, and they showed me a chair to sit down. So I sit down, and the German officer, the Gestapo man started to talk to me in German. And I said to the Ukrainian that brought me in, I said, tell the gentleman that I do not speak German. And he said to me, how come I sang a German song? I said, it's as simple as this. I wrote it down in Polish words. I liked the melody and I sang it, but I have no idea what that song meant. I did have an idea. So a Pole came up to me and lifted me up like this, put a gun right here, and said to me in Polish, tell me that you are a Jew, otherwise I will shoot you. And I said, if you want to shoot me. I am not a Jew, and if you wanted to have me on your conscience, you can do it. Took away the gun, opened the door, pushed me into a jail. There was a bunk bed, and I fell on that bunk bed, and I fell asleep.
Do you play poker? Because I would never, ever want to play poker with you. You're a young girl, you have a gun to your head, and you keep a straight face and say, no, I'll be on your conscience if you shoot me if you want to shoot me. Do you know how brave that appears to everyone?
Yes, of course I know.
Okay.
This is why I said, I think to myself, did I really went through this? It's unbelievable, but I had the courage. Life is precious. Life is so precious.
You were speaking German throughout this story because that saved you. And yet in this instance, speaking German would have condemned you. Why?
Because of the Ukrainian that brought me in.
He would think you spoke German, so you're a Jew.
That's right. You're getting it. You're getting
I'm
it.
trying, honey.
It's very hard to get it.
Yes, it is.
So I'm there 2 hours. They open the door and they tell me you can go. And I said, I cannot go because right now it's curfew time. They're going to kill me. When you say yes, you bet. You should never say it. So I told them I cannot go now. So the same Ukrainian that brought me in took me to my friend's grandmother at the same evening. After this, I came back. I befriended a German officer that had a boil. In Yiddish, you call it tamaki, right here. And I gave him electrical treatment. And he came in maybe twice a week or 3 times a week. Then I hear that the hospital is moving away and they cannot take me along. I went out to that forest and I walk and I talk to myself and I lift my head to the sky and I said, what's now? Where am I going? What am I doing? And then I saw 2 soldiers standing. I went over there and I said, can I speak to someone? And they showed me a door. I went in, and this was the officer that I made the treatment. He said, Maria, what are you doing here? I told him that the hospital is leaving and I have nowhere to go. Could you take me along? This was the German Wehrmacht. They deliver ammunition and food to the fronts. I was surviving with them. I was in a kitchen wagon sitting with my cook. I helped cook. All this time, I never ever heard them speak of death camps, of crematoriums, of gas chambers, of Jews. So I was secluded from all of this. It took me along. We went to Hungary, to Romania, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and then one day, and I was very much afraid of the bombs were flying and the bullets. And when the war was over, the lieutenant, the officer, opened the door and said, Maria, you don't have to be afraid anymore. The war is over. I said, the war is over? I went out of the kitchen wagon. There was a big Lenin stone outside. This was somewhere in Austria. And I sat on that stone. I said, my God, I survived the war? Who am I? Where am I to go to? Where's my family? Where are my siblings? Where are my parents? Then the American army came. I was standing like a scared person, being afraid to tell them who I was. I thought I'm the only Jewish person left in the war because I never heard of it, you know. Would they known that I'm a Jew, they wouldn't kill me. They would send me off to the proper authorities.
What happened to your family
Good.
while you were going through all this, and did you see them again?
My family survived in the Soviet Union. I brought them over to the United States of America. Only my mother died in Russia. And I brought them over to the United States. They lived in I brought them over to Milwaukee, but then they moved to Los Angeles, and they all passed away because they were very sick. I only have one sister left. I'm the oldest, and she's the youngest. But my family, thank God, survived, and it was a miracle.
How do you explain your extremely positive attitude?
I'm positive about everything. This thing, the Holocaust, left me with a chronic depression. I suppressed that for so many years. And when I came to New York, they tell me that people are falling like flies from heart attack. And right in New York, I had a nervous breakdown. But, and I have a psychiatrist, which helped me through the years, which helped me live a normal life and a positive life. I'm much better. I'm as good as I could be. And I came to the conclusion that this has to happen to everybody in their life. So, meanwhile, nobody said you don't live forever, but thanks God, except for my handicap, I'm healthy, and I plan to live life like Moshe Rabbeinu. That's, if you don't know, Moses lived. The Jewish faith said, bis 120, start 120 years. I'm very proud of my family, my daughter Shirley, my granddaughter Julia, Melissa, and my grandson Aaron. I raised a nice family. I have grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and my husband died 40 years ago of basically a broken heart. He could not get through the Holocaust. He could not shake it.
No. Last question, somebody, and I ask you this, it's not the most upbeat question, but so many of us wonder, God forbid it had been us. We survived it, how angry we'd be, how bitter we'd be, how tormented we would be. How can you not be? And the question that someone wrote down very succinctly is exactly that. Are you tormented by the memories? And do you feel bitterness towards the world because of all this? And if not, can you explain how you've got past that?
Well, I'll tell you, the upcoming generations after the Holocaust had nothing to do with it. Because what their ancestor did, they're not responsible. There's no question why. There's no answer why. Because the Polish Jews were the most pious Jews in the world. And nobody can explain why this happened. It has happened. It happened, and there's no answer. Some people were very fortunate, very lucky, and my survival, and my family's, I only think that God was with me. That's all I can say. And nobody has an answer why the Holocaust. Even the pious rabbis, they don't know why. It was unheard of. When the Nazis came in, they took the pious Jews and cut their beards and payas off, and they did horrible things to those people. And nobody has an answer why this happened.
Your story is a story of a very lucky person, but we are incredibly lucky to be with you here today. So let's give Tauba a huge shout out.